Okay, guys, welcome to, I believe, part 4 of The Longing. It has been a minute, hasn't it? You can see a good amount of time has passed since the last episode, and that has largely been because I haven't had the time to record new episodes just yet, so... Was my guy just moonwalking there? That was weird. Turn down the audio tuning just a teensy bit. Okay, and there's gonna be another pause here because I need to see how loud this music is in comparison to everything else. So give me a second here. Okay. Apologies for the pause there. My guy just sat down. I've never felt more alone. Okay. So, my original intent with this episode was to have it act as, in the interest of continuing the whole diary theme of what I've referred to as the series being. I wanted to, speak on a few matters that may be unrelated to the video at present. Sorry, I'm just paranoid about how the audio sounds. What is that? Cole? We're gonna stop and pick that up. Nope, it's gonna disappear in the middle of that. Okay. Perfect. What spots do I have remembered? We're gonna go there. So, I'm sure that there will be people who... Well, I shouldn't say I'm sure, but I understand that it's likely that there's people who are associated with OCRP at present that may see this, though I severely doubt they have any interest in A, my YouTube channel, or B, my Longing project. I was considering for the longest time making a dedicated video about the whole OCRP situation like Taylor did, but I just never got around to doing it, and I felt like there would be reprisal against me if I did such a thing. To be honest with you, the OCRP situation is kind of messy, and I sort of owe an explanation to the people who watch my content on a semi-regular basis as to why I just stopped going there. Because I know for a fact that there were a lot of people who watched me specifically because I was in OCRP, and they have since stopped watching me because I am no longer in OCRP. And, I don't fault them for that, because I was the same way when I used to watch GTA 5 content, in the sense that I wouldn't watch people who didn't partake in certain communities or what have you, and that's all completely understandable, but I feel like I owe those people a bit of an explanation if they're still sticking around, which I appreciate. And, of course, there's also the chance that people who watch my live content won't see this at all, which is, again, fine. There's some people who just like the Twitch side of things, but I'm just gonna get it off my chest here because I felt the need to do that, and I don't feel that a dedicated video would be wise, because, like I said, I think there are certain people who would decide to act out against me as a reprisal for my opinion on the situation. But to explain it in detail, the whole OCRP situation was unfortunately spawned because the administrators of OCRP felt that they were being stretched thin in their responsibilities of taking care of the community, which I'm not aware what they feel right now, because, like I said, I don't really pay that much attention to OCRP anymore. The last time I was on was a month, if not more, ago. And that was just for like an hour and a half, maybe, for a patrol with one of those that Jeff organized. But to my understanding, the server's pretty empty now. But a lot of members, including myself and OCRP, were unsatisfied with the attitude that the admins had towards their responsibilities, and it seemed like they were blaming a vast majority of the problems with that community on us as the members, rather than trying to find some kind of solution to fix it. So they were more concerned with us supposedly not respecting the fact that they have real lives, which we understood that. I mean, we know that. We all have real lives. Nobody was expecting them to sacrifice their real time, their real life, and focus on their jobs and families to take care of the community. But there is a certain level of responsibility that a person has to accept when they start and run a community like that. Like, it sucks, but unless you're keeping it closed to new members, there's always going to be new people, and you're always going to have to train people. You're always going to have to discipline people who don't do what they're supposed to. And that's a large part of the problem that that community had, in my opinion. That they didn't want to discipline people. And there were people, I'm not going to name any names, but there were very specific people who, in the end, there, before that meeting, or around the time of that big meeting we had that drove everyone away, they kicked out a bunch of problem people, and some of them did not deserve to be kicked out. I will say that objectively. There are some people, and the person who I'm referring to probably knows, if they're watching this, who they are. But that person was kicked out, and they did not deserve it at all. There were some people in that community that may have had a problem with the scenes that that person in particular did, but I assure you they were nothing compared to people who genuinely broke the rules and genuinely disrespected the community. But this is something that they don't want to hear. They don't want people to tell them that they're wrong. It irritates them for whatever reason. So, however many suggestions I made to try and improve the community, I have, in my Google Docs, I have like pages worth of documents outlining exactly what the problem with the community is and how they can fix it. But you can only put so much effort into a community when it starts to pile up, and it's just, at a certain point, you come to the decision that it's a waste of time to continue investing effort in that community. And this is something I've experienced since long before I was a member of OCRP, since long before even I was a member of DOJ, which is that there are some people in these communities who, whether in positions of power or not, just don't want to change the status quo, even if they recognize that there is a problem. And that community had a multitude of problems. It had a staff team that was too small. It had a staff team where the responsibilities were stretched thin across like a maximum of like 7 people. The community had, at its heyday, like 300 or 400 members. And there were about 7 or 8 staff members at peak. And that is not sustainable, putting it simply. And that was one of the largest contributing factors to what led up to that meeting that caused everyone from OCRP to go in a different direction. Like I said, for the longest time I was worried whether or not there was going to be a reprisal for making something like this, but at this point, I don't care. The community that I know doesn't exist anymore, because the people that I roleplayed with on that community that I cared about, that I enjoyed the scenes of, have moved on to other projects, whether that be Sun State roleplay, whether that be Sentinel, or whether that be something completely gone from GTA RP. I don't know what... I'm still in contact with some of those people, and I'm sure that if they see this, they would echo my sentiments in this video, that a lot of the problems caused by that were brought up in that meeting were caused by a failure to communicate, which it wasn't our fault that there was no communication. We tried so hard to communicate with them, to reason with them, to say, let us help. But the people that were in charge just didn't want to hear it. For whatever reason, they wanted to have their cake and eat it too. They wanted to have a massive community, but also not have any of the problems that come with it. And that's what led to that meeting, because in the meeting, essentially, they just told us, okay, we're done being admins. We refuse to accept the responsibility of community leaders because that's not what we wanted when we started this community. Essentially, they said, this community was never intended to be a DOJ or a competitor to DOJ. And that's fine, but the way that they conducted saying that is what contributed to so many people from OCRP leaving. And I know there's probably going to be people who were in OCRP who weren't admins, who were on our side of things, that are going to tell me that it was unwise to reveal this information in the video, but I feel like there's some explanation that's owed, and I'm not going to mention it in an episode title for The Longing or anything, but this is just this series, since there's no noise and it's so quiet, it's cathartic to me to talk about these issues that have frustrated me for such a long time that I can finally speak on. So, whether or not I get kicked out over somebody important at DOJ seeing this, or not DOJ, OCRP seeing this, I don't care. I'd like to remain in the community. I would like OCRP to become the place that I cared about when I joined, but there were so many glaring problems. It's like they refused to add new staff members to that small team. I referred to it as being 8 or 9 people, something like that. It was under 10, is all I know. And it varied depending on whether or not they had new admins or not, but they refused to expand and share their power is the problem. They didn't want to trust people with the ability to punish community members, and I guess I don't know whether or not that was because they didn't want to lose control of the community or what, but it just to me felt very disrespectful. And that's why a lot of people left, because essentially they were excuse me, because they were shifting the blame onto us rather than accepting responsibility for their own faults and asking us how they can make the place better, how they can improve conditions, and so on and so forth. And I've been talking on this for like 10 minutes now, but it's just something I wanted to get off my chest. I don't know how to articulate it in a fashion that's not going to piss somebody off. But, yeah. I wonder, do I have the... I don't have the map room saved here, so I'll have to find that again. But, yeah, to put it bluntly, it's just... of the issues that they had, they didn't have enough staff. They didn't have... They completely got it backwards with the way training and membership should work, which is that at a time, they had training open such that pretty much anyone could join. Or no, I'm thinking of it backwards. They were not recruiting new civs fast enough, which is one of the big problems with OCRP, is that the recruitment process took months. It was ridiculous, to be honest with you. It was absurd how long training took. Which, honestly, if training is going to take 6 months, it's not like you're being trained to be an actual police officer. Doing LEO in one of these GTA communities, it's not a job. It's not meant to be that difficult. And even if people tell you it is, it's not. I guarantee you with 100% certainty it is not that difficult. You don't have to be a cop to know how to be a cop in DOJ or OCRP or whatever. But some people won't hear that, is the problem. And the recruitment process, from the application to being released as a new civ, took way too long, which was one of the big issues that I harped on them about. Through documents and messages, countless times I offered to help them, but they didn't want to hear it, because, again, that's not what the people in charge wanted for the community. And, if that's the way they want to run the community, that's fine, but it's not efficient, and it's not sustainable for a large community, so... I mean, I guess they're getting what they wanted, to be honest with you, because they stated in that meeting that they didn't want a big community. They didn't want to compete with DOJ, and that's fine, but it's disrespectful to the people who want to be a part of that community, because you're asking them to wait absurd lengths of time just to get into the server and play. And there's communities that the standard time for training is like a week or under that. Not even a week for civs, because you don't need that much training. The only thing a good civ needs to know is what lines not to cross. And for a lot of communities, that's just no mass shooter scenarios, don't do the R word, don't do anything that would get people killed. Well, not killed, but things that in real life would be distasteful, like terrorism or what have you. And like I said, that part of the training took 6 months. And then my LEO training and the LEO training of a friend I had at the time took 9 months, if I recall correctly, 10. That was from being trained to the door block. Let's block from the other side. I will add this event to my list of appointments. It's blocked from the other side. Okay. I haven't been paying attention much to where I'm going, so I'm too caught up with talking, so... What was I saying? Yeah, the LEO training took like 9 months, so... That was its own problem. So they didn't have recruitment staff that were active. They didn't have training staff that were active. They didn't have LEO recruitments that were regular. And they didn't have LEO trainings that were regular. And during my training for LEO at that community, the training program changed hands like 4 times between the time that I started application and when I was finally allowed to be an LEO there. Which, I don't know. Maybe in the end, you can just say we shared different visions for what the community was supposed to be. But their vision for a community was not something that was capable of expansion or capable of even basic sustainment. It was inevitable that people were going to start leaving because there were so many people who had serious issues that were just ignored. Hang on. Sorry about that. No, we don't need to go this way. But like I said, there were so many people who had serious issues that were just ignored. Like, people that would actively cause problems in the community. Like, actively break the rules, actively disrupt things, actively try and make the place worse than it really was. Where am I at right now? Oh, I'm back there. Okay, well, I found a way back here. I've never been here before. But yeah, there were people who seriously caused problems, and I give them props because they kicked out at least one of those people during that meeting. There was a person who just blatantly broke the rules. All of the instrument parts. Okay, we can make it. So let's head home. Okay. But yeah, there was one specific person. Again, I'm not going to name drop or anything, but they probably know who they are. But there was one specific person who broke the rules pretty significantly, like left rage quit scenes, which is absolutely ridiculous. Like, rage quit in the middle of being arrested because they were caught, and just came back the next day like nothing happened. It was so egregious and so frustrating that I just decided mentally that I was not going to where is it? I was not going to engage with them or roleplay with them, and I didn't during the last few OCRP streams. I just straight up refused to interact with them because the admins wouldn't do anything about it, and eventually they did. When so many people complained about it that they were forced to take action, they did. I know I shouldn't be talking about this on a longing video, but like I said, it's more of a diary than anything because of how quiet the game is, and these are issues that have been addressed to the admins directly countless times, but because of the way that they want the community to be, they were ignored. So essentially the attitude that the admins had about that at the end is that members should deal with these problems among themselves, and if it ever comes to the admins, then they're going to kick out both people, both the problem causer and the person who reported it. Which is why at the end there, after that meeting, I was convinced for the longest time that I was going to get kicked out because there was an incident where I had to report someone who broke a pretty significant rule. And it wasn't anything petty or insignificant, because I don't report people that often. I don't have the energy to do that anymore. I don't have the energy to follow after people to keep them in line. But I guess you can't condemn somebody for having their own vision for a community, for wanting to keep the community small, but it gets to a point where it's just silly. Because it's like, you call yourselves admins, which is fine. Again, it's your community, run it the way you want. But they call themselves admins, and they exist there to prevent these situations from happening, but then they refuse to prevent those situations from happening. That's like, what am I supposed to think? I don't know. It's weird to spend 25 minutes of a random YouTube video talking about problems that aren't even associated with this game, but like I said, this is my outlet. This is a place where I can be honest with myself and with others, and I'm sure there's people from OCRP who would echo my sentiments. The people who started Sentinel would certainly echo my sentiments in this video. OCRP wasn't a bad community, and I'm sure it still isn't, but it suffered from extreme neglect in the end. The admins didn't want to be admins. They just wanted it to be this community that was closed to everyone else except for them and their friends. And again, that's fine. It's their community. They can do what they want with it, but if you want a community that you have recruitment and stuff for, you don't need to call yourself admins, and you don't need to be keeping in people who have an interest in the community growing. And they said for the longest time that they were considering shutting OCRP down over it. And the unfortunate part is I'm seeing a lot of that be echoed in Sunstate RP. Which I don't have any problem with Sunstate, and I applaud the admins of Sunstate because they're so willing to make changes and to correct their mistakes, but it's just... it's a problem that any community with open membership suffers, which is that there is no discipline for civilians in those communities. The reason that DOJ is so successful is because their civilians have to answer to people. There's, like, direct, dedicated staff for the civilian department. And I think that's a big problem, a big part of the problem with like, OCRP and Sunstate, is that there is no civilian department staff like there should be. And there absolutely needs to be. Because if you're calling it a department, it needs to be treated like a department, because there's enough people in it to justify that. There needs to be a department head, there needs to be department staff that are entrusted to punish people who break the rules and get them out of the civ department. So, that's my rant on that subject. We've been doing it about 25 minutes, so we're going to play some music here. This is going to be a little bit of a shorter episode, but I wanted to get that off my chest. I know I spent the whole video talking about it, but that was something that has been bugging me for a long time, and I just needed to get it out there, you know? And I'm glad that I did. So, let's hear this little guy's music. Wait, no, there's 4 parts? Oh my goodness. Dang it. Okay, well, I guess we're not finished. Shit. Well, can we make another drawing? No, we have no paper. Oh, that's depressing. Maybe we can make another fire for our little guy. We can. Perfect. Okay. Well, that's gonna be episode 4 of The Longing. The Long Rant. And, I will see you guys next time for part 5. Bye-bye.